So Idaho is known as a red state. We all know this. Republicans make up a supermajority in the state legislature and in public as well. And such a lean usually leads to low regulation. In fact, at one point, it was a catchphrase for Governor Brad Little, least regulated state in the country. For example, Idaho has no regulations of what a landlord can charge for a late fee. Oregon, Washington, Utah, Nevada, they're among the bordering states that do have some sort of regulation when it comes to late fees. And the city of Boise is looking to take a page out of their playbook, essentially to stop landlords from abusing the system and profiting from said late fees. Here's Andrew Barline.
If you're noticing more people out on the streets, Housing First nonprofit Catch says you're right.
Most folks are kind of in a very difficult financial situation.
Catch works to end homelessness in the Treasure Valley. In November alone, they housed 14 total families.
Housing is a very significant piece of ending homelessness.
But it's not the final piece.
5-6 years ago, we would really strive to get a family to where they were paying about 30% of their income towards their rent when they graduated.
The goal is to create a plan for their client to stay housed, but it's getting harder.
We're graduating people from the program where they're paying 50% of their household income or 60% towards their rent, and it just leaves people in a really precarious situation because the rent rates have increased much faster than income has.
The federal government defines this as rent burdened. These are people who are financially strapped and at times miss rental payments.
I'm not aware of one lease I've ever looked at that didn't have a penalty, a late fee penalty for paying your rent late, so it's a very standard industry practice.
In Idaho, it's a practice with no regulation, meaning landlords can penalize tenants whatever dollar figure they choose to put in the lease agreement. The Boise City Council is discussing a proposed ordinance change to amend that.
I think that it's a good idea, and I think that it's a step in the right direction.
The proposed ordinance intends to prevent landlords from profiting off late fees, reading in part, quote, "No property manager or owner of property shall charge a late rental fee unless the fee is equal to or less than the reasonable actual expense caused by the late payment."
Like if it's a late fee because it costs you a half an hour to write a notice to them, if you could just charge for that half an hour, and a lot of landlords do that, and a lot of landlords practice ethically. But there are some landlords out there that are really just trying to make money, and they charge tenants much more than they need to charge them.
In fact, Catch is working with a landlord right now who they say is charging an excessive amount.
$250.
In Oregon, landlords can't charge a late fee more than 5% of the monthly rate. In Washington, the fee's capped at 20% the monthly rate. And in Utah, all late fees are capped at $75. The lack of gem state regulation doesn't surprise Catch.
Honestly, this whole problem comes down to a math equation.
But with 1,400 people experiencing homelessness in Ada County, Catch welcomes any effort to push toward the goal of zero.
So it's really just targeting landlords that would be taking advantage of the situation.
Now, Catch says this is not a solution to solve homelessness by any means, but Catch says it would create a smoother transition toward independence, which is a big piece of what they do. Help somebody find housing, assist them, and then slowly wean them off assistance to when they would be 100% independent and housed on their own. And there's some kind of questions into that ordinance too, Brian. I mean, how do you regulate that exactly? If you're my tenant and you're late paying me and I'm late paying the bank, well, that can hurt my credit.
Sure.
How am I going to quantify that in a simple dollar amount? So I imagine there's some nuance here and some questions. We know the city council met today to discuss this, and so we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah, they have to kind of figure out this vagueness of the reasonable actual expense caused by the late payment, which you mentioned also could incur when it comes to your credit rating.
Yeah, there's a little bit of gray area there, and I imagine having a capped dollar figure might help that, but we'll see what actually comes out of it. City council has some more things to refine in this language.
Yeah, and if we are supposedly be the least regulated state in the country, that could go up against that. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, thank you very much, Andrew.